Hope you've enjoyed making your mince meat filling. Remember, it's a very versatile one that you're not just going to use for mince pies. You can use them for buns, you can use them to make cakes, you can eat them on their own. And then now we're going to move on to the next video, which is making our mince pies. Okay, so to put our mince pies together, you will need good quality short crust pastry or sweet pastry. About 720 grams should be enough to make 12 mince pies. You will need a rolling pin, some plain flour for dusting, a tray, cupcake tray, a teaspoon pastry brush, and some egg wash. And of course, you will need a little bit of either caster sugar or demerara sugar and your mince meat. Okay, so we will get started. We start off with dusting our board. And I think I have about 720 grams of sweet pastry here. So I will divide this into two halves, and we will start rolling the first half. The reason I've done that is I don't want to roll it out in one piece so that I don't overwork my dough. Light sprinkle of flour on my rolling pin. And I begin. So I'm going to roll this as flat as I think 5 mm. So just a little bit thinner than your 1 pound coin. Every time you roll, you stop and you move your pastry. Sometimes we're so intense on getting our pastry to the right depth, and we keep rolling and rolling. And when you're done rolling, you realize that your pastry is stuck to the bench. Always make sure you move the pastry around. Also avoid dusting the face of your pastry with flour. You dust your rolling pin rather than the pastry. If you have too much flour on your pastry, you will get this leathery texture to your pie. So you flour the board, you flour your rolling pin. And you want your pastry nice and cold. So with pastry, you keep hearing cold, chill this, chill this. So this came out of the fridge, nice and cold. And when we're done filling each case with mincemeat, we will send it back into the fridge to chill before we bake. This stops our pies from shrinking when we bake. So once everything is nice and cold, it will bake more evenly than if you're baking warm pastry. So this is just about thin enough. You will need a couple of cutters. 10 mm cutters for the base and 7 for the top. You can use 7 for both. You will roll this out a little bit thicker. Once you've cut out the 7 mm, you roll it out a little bit wider. So if you just have one cutter, you can use it for both. So I have 1, 2, let's see how many we can get out of this. 3, 4. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So the leftovers I will bring together and add into the last batch. So I'll pop that at the bottom so that it's easier for me to roll. Again, we start off by dusting our bench. We dust our rolling pin. So the temperature of your oven also plays a key part in getting a nice pie. Oven too cold, your pies will shrink. If it's too hot, it will cook very quickly and dry out and even sometimes get burnt. So we're going to keep an eye on the temperature of our oven. There we go. Nice even rolling, same depth running the length and breadth of your pastry sheet. Okay, and then there we cut. So 7, you can have 7 there. 8, 9, 10, 11, and 12. So I've cut out all the circles for the base, and then now I cut out the top. So we're going to cover all 12 pieces completely in class today. You can use star cutters if you don't want too much pastry. Just have a little star on the top. You can cover them with strips if you like, if you don't want too much pastry on the top. So it is up to you. You don't have to cover each one completely with pastry. So we've got 2, 4, 6, 7. I'm just going to quickly roll this out and I will have all my pieces sorted out. So it's a nice cool day today, so I can do this. During the summer, I will be popping this back into the fridge to cool down. So if your pastry starts to get warm, put it back into the fridge, let it cool before you cut and before you line your tart cases. So 2, 4, 6, 7. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. All done. So I've got my cupcake tray, non-stick, so I will not be greasing this. You grab the first one, and I have what we call the presentation side. So the smoother side goes at the bottom because that is the one that will become visible a little bit later. I curve it almost like a semicircle, and then I fold it. I fold my hands into themselves. It allows me to get right down to the bottom of each hole. So now the intention is to get right down all the way to the bottom, and you can use your thumb to press the pastry into the sides of the tin. We also want to create a lip, so this is very important. This is what is going to catch the cover. If you don't create a generous enough lip, the cover will not stick properly to the base, and then you start to see the mince pie once the tray comes out of the oven. So we want a nice, neat finish. So this lip is very essential to a beautiful looking pie. So we fold in half, bring our hands together, get right down to the bottom. And then we press down. Like that, like this, in. So you can use a small rolling pin, especially if you are working with long nails. They do tend to poke holes into your pastry base. So if you have a little, the smaller rolling pins, you can just use it to press into each case like that. Only for those of us that have long nails. And 4, fold in half to each other, right down to the base. And if you are not in any hurry, you can actually chill it at this stage before you fill it with your mincemeat. So the key to successful pastry baking is to chill, 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 chill. You want everything cold, especially for those of us who will be making our pastry from scratch. You want everything nice and cold, butter cold, flour cold, if you like. Even the bowl that you're going to use to mix, you can bring it straight from out of the fridge. And I cannot emphasize keeping everything cold enough, especially during summer. These days I'm confused. I wake up in the morning, I don't know if I'm still in Nigeria or if I'm in London. It's so warm during the summer months now. So everything from the fridge. We're almost there. You don't want any air pockets in each hole, please, very important. Otherwise, it will puff up during the baking time. Make sure you eliminate by pressing down to the sides. Make sure you press down right to the bottom of each hole. And our mincemeat. So generally, you will need about 2 to 3 teaspoons of filling for each pie. Do 2.5. So you just want the filling to come up to the rim of each hole. So we've got one there. It smells so good, so good. I'm using the back of the teaspoon to press down so that I absolutely make sure I have the right amount of filling in here. So you press down, use the back to smooth top. For our Christmas classes, we also top this with frangipane. So it's not always that you have to use pastry for this. You can play around with the topping. I think 1 teaspoon of mince meat is adequate for the base, and a couple of teaspoons of frangipane goes on top of that, and a few flakes of almonds, and you have this delicious twist to your traditional mince pies. So this is what we have. You will need some egg wash, pastry brush, we already have our pie topping. So I like to glaze that lip gently, the lip that we have created, with a little bit of egg wash before sticking the cover on. Right, paring knife to cut off any excess filling that we have. So you can use a fork to crimp the edges. You can fold the edges into themselves. You can use a paring knife to trim it up. You can play around with the design as you like. Okay. Okay, and I am just going to fold. Just gently. I don't like to waste, so I'll just fold the edges into each pie. I was saying you can use a fork to crimp the edges in, or just use the cutter to knitting it out. Once I'm done crimping all the edges, I will egg wash, sprinkle a little bit of demerara sugar, and leave it in the fridge to chill for about 20 minutes before we bake. So we chill the pastry to stop it from shrinking during the baking process. If the pastry is not well chilled, you will find that you have a shrunken looking pie. So the chilling is very important. The temperature of your oven as well is also important. We're going to bake this at 140 degrees. We preheat the oven. Make sure it's nice and hot before placing the pastry or the pies in there. If the oven is not hot enough as well, you can have a pie that will shrinking. So nice cold pastry going into a hot oven is what you want to do. So all 12 done. We'll egg wash, sprinkle. So the egg wash gives it a nice finish, nice golden finish to our pies. And this you can do, you can chill the pies first and then egg wash, or egg wash before. Or egg wash before and after, if you like. Make sure you're catching the rim of each pie. So not just the cup, not just the center, but all around the edges as well. Nice coating of egg wash. And if you want a darker, more golden finish, you can add an egg yolk into your whole egg. That gives it a more, a darker finish. Okay, almost done. I will allow the pies to chill before putting a slit. So we will need to create a slit in each pie. We've got a lot of steam in there that needs to be released so that the pies don't bust open. So we'll cut a little slit, but I will allow the pies to go through the chilling process before we create that slit. Okay, and we are all done. You can cut a star if you like on each pie, even at this stage. You can use a star as the cover. Our star cutter has gone AWOL, but I will show you what you will do if you have yours on hand. So you have your leftover pastry roll, slightly thinner than we did for the base and the cover. And with your cutter, I'm going to pretend this is a star. You have your cutter and it just goes right there on the top. So I think maybe I should just do 4 with this. So remember, nice and thin so that we don't have more pastry than filling when we're eating our pie. So something like that. Goes on, a little bit of egg wash. So all that's left is for us to sprinkle demerara sugar. You can use caster sugar for this, if you like. Get this into the fridge, 20 minutes. When it comes out, it goes into the oven to bake. Light sprinkle. And a 20-minute chill time in the fridge. Okay, so our tray has come out of the oven, out of the fridge, I beg your pardon, nice and cold. And we're just going to use a paring knife to create some slits in here. So this will act as a vent for the steam to come out and not bust our pastry cases. I have preheated my oven, 140 degrees centigrade. I am using a fan oven. If you're using a conventional oven, it will be 160 degrees centigrade. We're going to give it a 40-minute baking time. When we come back, we should have some delicious, well-baked mince pies. So in the oven, set the timer, 40 minutes. Ooh. And they look amazing. They smell amazing as well. You will have a quick check after your 40-minute bake time. If they're nice and golden, you bring them out. If they're not, pop them back into the oven, give them 6 more minutes, and then you have a look. We will leave this to rest for about 5 minutes. If we try to bring them out of the pan now, it has a tendency to crumble and break. So we'll leave them to rest, and then we'll bring them out of the tin. Okay, so 5-minute rest. Now we can attempt, yes, getting our pies out of the cases. So lovely. See how many we can get on the board. Sure. I think we can fit 10. Just about fit. Okay, so we will fit 10 on our board. A light dusting of icing sugar. Ooh, some snow. Already feeling like Christmas. Okay, so there you have it. We have made 12 in class, and that will just be perfect for the 12 days of Christmas. Lovely mince pies, delicious, and remember, you need to enjoy this with a glass of Redbreast Whiskey. Cheers, everyone. Merry Christmas.